My goal for this video is for it to be one of the most valuable that you have ever seen in order to scale a real estate business, in order to get more real estate deals. So we're going to get straight into it. There's nothing held back. I literally am going to lay out the entire steps in this entire video. So it's going to be about discover how to streamline your solo real estate business with systems run by remote workers without spending endless hours on repetitive tasks, doing everything yourself, or feeling overwhelmed. So these are the steps I followed to build a team that gets me deals in my own business. Now I make the high-level decisions, choose which deals I want to do, and offer leadership as needed. I don't do any of the day-to-day grind stuff like I did in the beginning. This is for serious people only. The average Joe doesn't want a real business because it's hard. So this is not for him. This is for you if you've done deals before, but you can't stand the thought of having to go to work to pound the phone yourself to get a deal for the next 10 years. Or if you're just tired of everything being manual in your business, you feel like it shouldn't be this hard every day. Maybe you just want more out of business because you thought it would give you more freedom. Then you realized you built a business that trapped you in the day-to-day and it became a job that you owned. I will be laying out the entire process so you can see what it takes to scale a company. For the sake of time, I can only go into so much detail on each thing, but you will have the entire process overview laid out. Before we get into it, I just want to say that I'm not a tax professional, financial advisor, lawyer, or any other licensed professional. Do not take any of this as professional advice of any kind. The stuff we cover is simple to understand, but I wouldn't say that it's easy. This is not for anyone who has never done a deal before. You can still learn from what comes next, though. So who am I? I'm Sean Selby, and it's just like, if you're wondering, hang on, why should I even listen to you? This is what this is about. So I've worked for myself most of my life, but the only part that's relevant for this training is that I work for a privately owned company that is doing over $8 billion a year. I was working there when I started buying and selling properties virtually. I was a truck driver and I used a laptop to run everything. I quickly needed to hire people to do some of the manual work because I didn't have time. I spent over $32,000 on education in 2 years to learn how to do deals and run operations for a virtual real estate business. And I've been running a real estate business full time for a few years now. But I had to grow it enough to have some freedom. Otherwise, it would have just been this grueling, low-paid job, just like everything else was. So it was at that large company that I was able to see exactly how a real estate business operates. Don't think because a business is so large you can't learn from them, because you can and will if you pay attention, which I did. Every business, whether they are selling hamburgers, clothes, or even customer experiences like theme parks, is the same as it relates to business principles, like needing simple systems and processes the employees can use to run the business. It's like if you bought into a fast food franchise, they provide everything that makes you likely to succeed. It's the same principle. It's just that guys don't know that not having those systems in place is the root cause of all their day-to-day problems. It's why they don't know how to design a company that can scale. Why I don't talk numbers, and I don't use them either. So remember, I'm not an attorney, and this is just my understanding and opinion after learning from an FTC compliance attorney. You may have already noticed I don't have a bunch of scummy, illegal junk everywhere. I'm talking about how real estate gurus show client claims like I was flipping burgers and now I make $1 million per month. It was all super easy and you can do it too. So you probably don't know, but it's completely illegal to market this way. No amount of disclaimers or disclosures makes it legal. There was a marketing study done on 500 online companies, and all 500 used some sort of false or misleading marketing practices. The FTC compliance attorney that taught me has over 20 years of experience. The FTC can enforce laws against these gurus at any time for it, and they do, a lot. I don't want to waste your time here, so here's a transcript of an IG reel I made talking about it more. I won't read it all because it's not what the video is for. You can pause and read it if you want. The only excerpt that I'll read is this. Think about this for a second. Why can you not sell drugs? It's because it is illegal to own, sell, or use them. But wait, can't you just put a disclaimer or a disclosure on it stating that it is illegal and sell it anyways? Then the cops can't touch you. Sounds stupid and ridiculous, right? This is why all the results you see people marketing every day is illegal. The results themselves are against the law for a guru to post or say. So no one can use a testimonials that has earnings claims unless they were verified by a third party. And it goes on and on about it more. Like I said, you can pause the video. I don't really want to talk about it more because you knowing this doesn't help you at all. Is all that I'm doing this for is if you're wondering, hey, this guy must be really shady. He won't ever talk numbers. Well, it's because it's against the law for me to. So even if I did get a client a huge result, I can't say it if it's atypical. And, it's like you have to pay a third party to go out and get it. So it's like, it's just not possible to get a client really great results and then post about it. There's almost no way to make it legal. Okay. So all of that is just to say, if you're only willing to listen to people that make false, unfair, deceptive, misleading, or unsubstantiated claims, I'm not your guy. I won't let anything I say here jeopardize my real business, which is doing real estate deals. For the rest of you, enough of that. So this is not for noobs. No offense on this. It's just in the beginning, all your time, effort, and money goes straight into learning marketing. You have to get those first few deals before you can build systems around a process unless you have serious capital. Even then, you run the risk of blowing through capital faster because you don't yet have the knowledge to get deals. Remember, you can only scale what you already know how to do. If you have never gotten a deal before, you aren't scaling anything. You would just be throwing money away because multiplying a zero is still zero. There's just a few definitions here. I know this kind of stuff is boring, but we got to cover it. So business system is a set of procedures, principles, and practices that are used to achieve a specific result. A business process is a series of tasks or activities that a company performs to achieve a specific goal. So think about it like this. A system, specific result. A process is a goal. So it's like this larger thing. And now when you're talking about the standard operating procedure, SOP for short, it's a how-to guide. So we're going to get into, explaining all this really thoroughly with examples so you can see exactly what I mean. So the first step is to do a process map. And this map, it's like you're going to map out everything it takes to get a deal. This is the process map you'll use to create an SOP for each task. After the process map is done, it can be a simple Google Doc or a Word doc, doesn't matter. Then go back over it and make sure you're not forgetting steps in the process. If you do, just add them in as you go. A sample process overview for a fast food joint. So I thought about trying to give y'all one that's for real estate. However, the problem is all the softwares are different. Like all of the marketing methods are different. All the asset types are different. So I wanted to create like an unbelievably super set, like easy to understand set of documents. So that way everyone can understand. So this is pretend, it's just a fast food restaurant for a burger joint. So the document has a title. This is a process overview. Remember, this is like the big overarching goal. So the purpose of this document that you would be creating is to map out everything that is needed to serve our menu to the customers. So this is basically like everything that needs to be done. So this process overview would be done, let's say, by the business owner or the fast food joint manager. So we're going to try to come up with a customer volume forecast. It's kind of like, how many people do we think we're going to serve this week? Okay, plan the menu. Is the menu set, or are there going to be seasonal items coming in? Okay, then we're going to be buying food and supplies. We got to prepare the kitchen to bring all this in, make sure that everything's working properly. There's nothing broken, no maintenance needed. We're going to see what staffing we need, like how many people do we need each day? Is anybody sick? Stuff like that. Then there's the ordering, receiving. We got to cook the food. We got to check the quality of the food. We got to serve the customers. And then we got to clean up and close the business each day. Okay. Don't worry too much about all of the little sub things, and then don't worry about all this. But I just want you to understand, this is like, for instance, if we're talking about cold calling, it would be the entire process around potentially, okay, like getting the data. Well, see, even before that, you're going to have to figure out like where you're going to market to. So you would take your marketing plan, figure out from start to finish. And it's just basically laying this out like it's going to be basically a list of all the things that have to get done in order to get a deal. And some of these, they would be incredibly long. However, you don't have to create them for the entire business at the start. You can create them around, smaller things because, it's kind of like the marketing to get a deal is vastly different than the transaction coordination part. So you can separate out these process maps. So don't think it's like it'll be a list of 100 things. You can make it much smaller than that. Okay. Don't try to get confused on this. Just understand we're just listing out everything that needs to be done in a particular process. So the rule is you're going to make this as simple as possible. It does not need to be complicated. You want a third, fourth, fifth grader to be able to look at it and understand what it means. So you will make one of these for each thing you want to systematize. When you start a new one, finish it. Don't create a bunch of new projects and not finish them. That is your overall blueprint for what you will create SOPs for. You will be hiring virtual assistants to do all the repetitive work. I personally hate calling them that because they can do almost anything as long as it's virtual. However, if I said employees, they aren't that either. And then everyone would think they couldn't afford them because they would probably assume that I'm talking about American workers. Okay. So we will be talking about hiring in other countries for a fraction of the cost, often $2 to $10 per hour. The experience of the person and also the job position is what dictates all of this. Okay, the second step is you're going to create SOPs. So now before we go into this next part, know that you can do this in multiple ways. I'll explain the differences. You will create an in-depth training that is designed to walk a new hire through each step in great detail. These will be our standard operating procedures, which are called SOPs. Sounds complicated, but they are just your training materials for new hires. My previous job is where I learned what these should look like, how to use them, and if you don't have them, you have no shot at owning a business that can grow without you. So SOP writing option 1, you will look at the process overview document, choose the first task that requires an SOP, then write down all the steps from start to finish that it takes for a person to know exactly how to do it. It is more nuanced than this, but that's the basics of it. You would want to test it by following it yourself to make sure it is complete like a set of instructions. Then have the new person follow it during their training period. You ask them to write down any questions where they didn't understand clearly what to do. That's how you improve it over time. So here's an example of an SOP for a burger joint. Okay, so it's just going to be labeled SOP, cooking burger patties on a griddle. The purpose, this tells you how to cook burger patties so they are safe and taste the same every time. So who should do this? The grill cook position. Now, I will say this is a pretty formal document. Keep in mind, if you were to have like one person or yourself, you wouldn't even have to have it titled. But is what you'll quickly realize is when you're trying to sort these files, or store them and then do file management, you really do want to title them properly. It takes virtually no time at all. And you can use basically any template you want. The people that I work with, sure, I can provide you one. It is incredibly easy to do this kind of stuff, to do the layout. So if you'll notice here, they've got the tools and the equipment listed. You've got the ingredients for this process. And it is very generic, of course. It doesn't have all the stuff for this restaurant because nothing exists. I'm not going to try to go down that rabbit hole of trying to explain how to use a grill when it doesn't matter. So, steps to follow before you start, and then it's basically you just follow these like it's a step-by-step instruction manual because it is, except it would literally have one of the things that I like doing is screenshots. There's screenshot tools that are even free, and you can literally just take pictures of things and then include that in your SOP, and it makes it so much faster and easier. If you're explaining a software, just screenshot it for the SOP if needed. Otherwise, you could just take a video of it, and then it is the easiest thing in the world as far as just because you can actually just record yourself doing the task and then speaking each time you do something. And that makes this so much easier than trying to write this out, because some things you won't actually need to have written out for your version 1 SOP. It's just not necessarily necessary to do. Okay, back to this. Just look at how it is a step-by-step instruction manual for how to do this. Like, you're gonna put the patties on the griddle, add the seasoning, cook the first side for how long? For 2 to 3 minutes. Then you flip the patties, and then for how long do you cook those? 2 to 3 minutes. And then it tells you got to cook them until it's 160. Then you add the cheese. After cooking, remove the patties, keep patties warm. You get the point. It is just step by step, and do not let this overwhelm you, because once you actually do one of these, you'll be like, oh, this is really not that bad. Okay. Notice it's not specific to a company or equipment, but you can get the idea of what it looks like. It's more formal than it needs to be in the beginning. The reason for using a formal SOP is if you have a business that has hundreds of employees, everyone can glance at it and see which department and job role the SOP is for. So your SOPs will only work for you. Your SOPs will be made up of training videos, checklists, documents, and whatever else is needed to ensure a person knows how to successfully do their job. Just real quick on checklists. When a heart surgeon is doing a surgery, there is a nurse. She's probably going to be an RN, and she is basically in charge of making sure they didn't leave any kind of tools inside of the body before the surgeon sews up and stuff. They use checklists. You don't necessarily know it, but the amount of job positions that use checklists is extreme. It is a tremendous amount of people using checklists, and that's because they're very efficient. And there's books on how to write them easily. I show it, behind the scenes. It's not a big deal. But this is life-changing. This is how you get people to not make mistakes when you hire them, because they don't move on until the checklist is finished. So that is a huge, huge thing right there you should remember. If you're thinking this sounds like a lot of work, it is. If this isn't worth it to you, you cannot do this and do everything yourself for the rest of your life. I know that sounds horrible, but literally, if you think this is hard, compare it to doing everything manually for the rest of your days in your business. It is not even close to being the same. So here's a hack in case you don't see yourself talking on camera alone. A cure for the camera fry is to leave the camera off and then just screen capture and talk into a microphone. What I'm doing right now could literally be an SOP type of format, just talking over a document, but I could leave the camera off. It doesn't bother me to talk on camera though. Okay, so SOP writing option 2. The next way to get all of this would be to hire someone first, then create the SOPs live with them. That way you're not talking by yourself in a room. So I'm so used to doing it at this point, I have zero fear around talking on camera or into a microphone. You will get this way too. Keep in mind, these are internal SOPs and only a select few people will ever see them anyways. So the cons to hiring someone and then training them is that they will need to potentially change their sleep patterns. It depends on the time you hired them to work as well. So otherwise, you will need to train them at night. And I'm sure a lot of people aren't going to be willing to do that. Personally, I expand my working hours to help them out. I call it sharing the pain. The idea came from Ken Iverson. This is for the team that doesn't work standard CST time. I offer them meeting times before and after my normal work time. So if I would normally work 8 hours, I might expand my hours to 12 hours. It doesn't mean I'll work that entire time, but it doesn't force them to change their sleep time so much at once. They can just choose a meeting time that is better. It's only for training. I don't have to do it that much. Doing something small like this really goes a long way to earning respect. It has to do with being a better leader. You can do it in other ways as well. So cloud storage, file sharing. I know a lot of people have questions about this, so I'm going to cover it. It is very, very simple to set up and do though. Okay, after all this is documented, you can organize the files in a folder and share it through online file sharing like Google Drive or OneDrive. A good training document or SOP isn't overly complicated, and it gives only what is needed to be successful. If it only needs to be one paragraph, then do that. If it needs to be 10 pages, then do that. And also, if it's easier, just make it a video, and then you can also go out and find, like, if there's a software you need them to learn, chances are there's already videos on YouTube or on that software's website to do it, and you can just have them watch those videos. Or, better yet, you can even hire people that have direct experience with that software, and that can even shortcut what you're doing as well. So the reason you have to make these is because everyone's business is completely different. If you look at mine, you wouldn't even understand what's going on. If you cold call, you're hiring different people than I am because we are using direct mail. Even if you were using direct mail and you're mailing houses, I'm mailing for land. If we both were doing land, we aren't mailing for the same type. So what you don't want to do with these is make them and never touch them again. They are considered living and breathing, as the saying goes. They must be updated periodically when something changes. Most businesses change stuff periodically. Let's say you hire someone and it's not been updated. The person then does their job wrong and it's not their fault. You can have the workers, once trained, be responsible for updating them, though. It makes your life so much easier. So just an FYI, there are SOP writing services out there. I highly recommend you not use them. I've heard prices ranging anywhere from $500 to several thousand per SOP. So that means you could blink and you could spend $5,000 to $20,000 for this service. It gets worse. That doesn't necessarily include process mapping, nor does it include all the updating each time you change a task. So meaning if you change softwares or anything in the process, the SOP you just paid for is now obsolete. So you would either have to pay them again, or you would then have to go and do it anyways, which kind of defeats the whole purpose of doing it. So you really shouldn't stress about this like you might be thinking right now. After you do this, the first time, your VA can handle this moving forward. Now you've created your process map or overview. Then you created the training materials to train someone, your SOPs. The third step is going to be your onboarding document. So you will create an onboarding document. It should be written in simple English and be straightforward. So the point of this is to explain what is expected of the new VA and then tell them how to go through the training. I use a Google Doc that has clickable links to the different things they need. And so your onboarding guide for line cooks here. So it basically is just welcome. It's going to welcome them, and then it is going to explain to them whatever they need to know. And then it's going to explain to them the, this isn't going to be quite so much their job description. That's going to be like a separate document. You should look at this like it's kind of telling them how they're going to get paid, how it works, their working hours, schedules. It's going to tell them like the chain of command, like, do they talk to you or do they have someone over them? And so you're going to just understand that this is so that way they don't feel lost when they come into your business. Because remember, they're going to be anxious. Changing a job to come to work for you is life-changing. I will talk about more of that here in a minute, but just know this is to kind of put their mind at ease, and they can see like, okay, this is what's expected of me. I need to do 2 days of training. This is where I go to get the training material. This is how I talk to you. It's just explaining to them so that their nerves can relax and they know exactly what's going on. Okay. They can be way shorter than this, especially depending on their job role. So depending on the job role, this document may be only 1 or 2 pages. I like to make my onboarding document short because it's just links to the things that they need. Once the person is hired, I share a Google Drive folder with them that has the SOPs. So there are softwares you can pay monthly for, but when you're just starting to hire, it's not really necessary. At the $8 billion per year company I talked about earlier, they shared their SOPs with us on a thumb drive. So just don't overcomplicate this. At this point, you can tell them how you will communicate with them via chat. Doesn't matter which service you use. So there are hundreds to choose from. Many are free, and a popular paid option is Slack. So Google Chat is a free option, and then you can attach documents and anything with messages to share. So you can share screenshots, documents, links to stuff, and it's basically like a way to text them, just chatting, and it doesn't cost you anything, and it's almost instantaneous. So the job description document. So this is going to be like roles and responsibility defined. I would recommend you give them a job description at this point. Having a proper job description is great for job postings too. It thoroughly explains what they need to do day to day. And the more specific it is, the better. So it makes the person know exactly what is expected of them. It can help when you evaluate them too. Imagine you're getting on to someone because they're not doing something, but then they didn't even know to do it. So this is like a really great thing to give them. So here's an example. This is pretty formal and stuff, but basically it's like, hey, what is this person responsible for? Food preparation, quality control, kitchen cleanliness. They got to be a team player. They're responsible for all the health and safety, probably things like making sure the food temperature is up to code. Inventory management, customer service support, continuous improvement. Okay. So basically, this is what is expected of you if you take on this job. And so notice people will also want to see what they're not responsible for, because some people are like, well, if I have to do this, that's a deal breaker for me to do. And you want them to know ahead of time what they're responsible for, because you don't want to hire someone and then they be like, hey, I'm not willing to do this. Like, I don't want to deal with inventory. Well, then that might mean that that job is not going to be something that they're going to do because they're not willing to. And if they're going to be disgruntled about it, then you wouldn't want to hire them. So this is for very practical reasons here. So I would, again, write it in plain English, use 5th grade reading level max, maybe even 3rd grade English if it's possible in all these documents. AI can do this for you. You can literally just put in a document and say, hey, make this no more than 5th grade reading level, and then it'll do it. So it's not about the VA's intelligence. It just makes it easier for them since it is their second language. So this goes for every document you make. It lowers the risk of miscommunication. You should not make anything overly complicated for no reason. So the 4th step is going to be hiring. So look at what all the person needs to do and decide who you need to hire. So this is where you get to dream a little bit. Use AI to help you brainstorm. If you found the right person, what skills do they need to have? They will be working with you or on specific tasks for 40 hours per week. What do they need to have to be successful? What college degree would make sense if they need one? What previous job experience would they need? So if they are cold calling, you would want someone who has done it for at least a year. And if you have never hired someone before, you can hire those with experience and they can teach you how it was done. A lot of them are even experienced with process it takes to run that department. There are even cold calling department managers out there who have managed as many as 20 or 30 people at a time. So let's say you decide that you want someone with at least 2 years experience cold calling, and they have to have a 4-year college degree. The college degree would show you that they have discipline, but of course, they don't have to have a degree. It's just an example. Now, this is important. Here in the U.S., there are labor laws, and that means that you can't discriminate between race, gender, age, etc. When hiring a virtual assistant, they work like freelancers, so there aren't laws like there would be here in the U.S. But I would go into it with an open mind and blind to all the variables. Here's why. When I wanted to find a data analyst, it would be very easy to assume lots of numbers, lots of math, boring work to most of the population. That, I would be looking for a male is what it would be easy to assume. So I'm just saying, easy to assume a middle-aged man. Turns out the best candidate I found was a young woman who had corporate experience in data analytics and a 4-year degree in a field complementary to data analytics. So be gender and age blind. Only hire the best person you can find. A players can also perform better than 2 to 10 B or C players. So writing a job post, now it's time to write a really good job post to find this particular person. The number one problem with job posts is that the business owners write them according to what they want. A truly great job post is written so that it is what the VA wants. It answers their questions about the job. I like to start mine off with all the benefits they will get by choosing me over any and all other companies. I offer very competitive pay. I give them paid days off. And for roles that don't require a set schedule, they can choose the days and times they work. So this won't work for cold calling, obviously, but just know that I'm trying to be whoever's dream opportunity. So this gets me better individuals. If you hire a bunch of bad performers who don't like what they do and they don't like working, then they will cost you money instead of making you money. As far as job post writing goes, you can look at what others say in theirs. So go to online job posting sites and then act like you're looking for the job you're offering. See how your job offer looks compared to the rest. So here's an example one. Join our team as a line cook, and I would go ahead and list the benefits first. But keep in mind, this doesn't really matter. I'm just showing you the layout for right now. It's going to go over your responsibilities, what you're expected to do, and basically like, here's what's in it for you. This is what we're looking for. Here's how to apply. And so the above is very generic. I just want you to see the format. I will give you a real example here. Benefits I like to offer for data entry. So even though I say up to 25% more than average, that's just an example. I put the actual number right here. So you want above average pay, and then you choose the days of the week that you work, and they can choose weekends if they want to. So it's like they can choose what days they work, how many hours per day they work. You can work, 12-hour days, 10, 8-hour, 6-hour days. It does not matter to me. So if you get all your work done in 3 or 4 days, I have no problem with it. So we only require a 40-hour work week. Overtime is never required. If you wish to work overtime for more money, it is your choice. And then we give them 18 paid days off per year. So this is huge. Think about it. If you were looking for a job and you're like excellent, amazing at what you do, but you're so tired of being underappreciated. So that is where stuff like this right here comes into play. It's going to allow you to get better candidates. There's still going to be all the different candidates applying, but now you have access to the best of the best, because the best is not willing to work for a bad business owner. I'm just telling you straight up. Like I've talked to some before that are really great, and they literally just won't put up with crap because, think about it, they don't have to. So a great job post tells them what's in it for them, what the job is like day to day, and what is required of them. I'm also completely honest about the job. Our data entry position job post literally tells people, if you don't like repetitive work, please don't apply. I even say you would hate this job. In the US, it has been common practice to lie to workers in order to dupe people into applying and then trapping them in the job. This is a different time than a few decades ago, so be honest. You do this by providing a great workplace to work at. So my mission is for my VAs to say, this is the best job I have ever had. It doesn't always mean it's the easiest job with no complexity. It means the working conditions are better. I treat them like people, and I'm appreciative of them. Instead of the old mentality, which was be appreciative because I'm paying you and I could replace you by the end of the day. I went into a lot here, but what I just said is what makes you stand out. Everyone wants the hack, the easy button. Well, this is it. Hire really great people and get out of their way. My rule for my team is I only hire those better than me at a given task. I would be fearful of creating a company where I'm the smartest. So a lot of business owners have made the mistake where they're the smartest and most capable. They are then the bottleneck for growth. All their time is spent on training the team for months on end. If they require too much hand-holding, that means you hired the wrong person. But it's more than that. You may not be providing an opportunity that an A player would apply for. Don't stress about it. This is curable. A quick tip for finding detail-oriented people is to include very specific instructions in the job post. I like to say, when sending your resume, include in the email header data entry, and then they put their name in that format. So other people have put things like purple elephant in the headline of their email. This is meant to weed out people who don't pay attention. So you would put purple elephant in there. If they don't include that when they're applying in the email, then that means they're not detail oriented, and then you might want to just go ahead and pass on them. So a lot of people in every country are using automated job post reply services. That means they don't follow instructions whatsoever. To me, they are probably not someone you would want to hire. They are trying hard to get out of work, in my opinion, and you haven't even met them yet. So the fifth step is going to be interviews, and you're going to choose who to interview after the job post is up. So you may be thinking, will people really apply that easily to the job post? Yes. If you write a good job post, people will apply over time. So you're not trying to get U.S. workers. In the Philippines, which is where I would post a job, people want a job. And let's be real, you're going to be able to pay them more than they can make in the Philippines. So imagine if you ran an ad here in the U.S. for a job that paid $20 to $25 an hour to work on a computer at home instead of the standard $15 an hour. You would be flooded with applicants, and you would also have to pick the best people that perform that job already. So back to choosing people to interview, we call this shortlisting. I would create a spreadsheet that has people who look to be the best choice. So the ones that follow the instructions in the job post on how to apply. There are paid softwares you can use for this. Unless you plan to hire 20 people at once, I would not bother. There is a software for everything you can imagine. In this case, it is meant for companies who never stop hiring and they need more functionality. So they may hire dozens or hundreds of people per year. In the job post, I ask them to submit a DISC profile test, English test, voice recording, and email their resume along with other things. So I look for how they communicate with me in the email as well. What I ask for is dependent on what they are applying for. So different roles have different skills and tests. So remember, people treat you the best they ever will when applying. So pass on anyone that is less than stellar in the interview because they will get worse with time, not better. Once I have a short list, then I email them over questions to see if they further match what I'm looking for. I make sure they can start soon, and I just want to see if it makes sense to interview them before I give them that chance. In the Philippines, it is common to give at least 30 days notice if they're quitting their job. However, some people insist on 2 months or more. So if that's a deal breaker, I would like to find out in the email questions before hopping on a Zoom call. Another thing that's very common there is people work multiple jobs, and you want to make sure if you want someone that you really need to pay attention and stuff, you might want to hire someone that is not working multiple jobs. For me personally, I don't like that. I want to be have them work full time for me so they're focused. So I share a link to the ones that pass that initial sniff test with email questions. In the interview, I try to diffuse some of their anxiety so they do good during the interview. You should know their anxiety can be through the roof with some applicants. And that's why you don't want them to be stressed. A great candidate might perform worse, and then you could accidentally pass on a great person. I get straight into it so I can get to know them. The better questions you ask, the more they will open up. I want to know if they like the work they do and if it's just a job to them. I want to ask them what they do, and if they light up, that is going in the right direction. If they seem to hate what they do, I run away from them. I want to ask them questions about the gaps in their resume if they exist. So a great candidate has always worked. My experience is that if someone hasn't worked for a couple years here and there, that person isn't motivated to work. You want people who feel lost without work. They are called to do it because they like it. So I do have questions prepared ahead of time, and I know the answers I'm looking for to some extent, but I'm always trying to keep an open mind during the interview as well. So my go-to hack for knowing how good a candidate is when I'm interviewing is if the person teaches me something I didn't know, or if they if they're talking about a lot of insider terms and using lingo, that's like really helpful. So if they're talking and saying words like cold calling, lead, CRM, dialer, triple dialer, and so on, you know they have experience because they talk just like you do. So once I've found someone I like, I would give them, or I would like to meet them again. I would then ask them any follow-up questions if I had them, and then offer them a job. So remember, it's a big deal for them. A new job is generally life-changing to people. So let's say you've now hired someone through a successful interview and you agree on pay, working schedule, and then you like each other. You would now move on to the next step. And there is other things here that we should talk about. It's just because of time. Make sure you're hiring for the vision, the mission, the goals, and everything. And you want y'all's goals to be aligned. So just keep in mind, there is more to this. Okay, the sixth step is going to be onboarding the new hire. So this is easy to some extent because you already created the onboarding document. You just need to explain the document to them and then give them a deadline to get through the document and start the training. I always like to give them more time to go through the training than they actually need. Remember, a job is life-changing and they need to adjust. If they can go through the training in a day, give them up to 2 days. It lets their nerves settle a lot, okay? Remember, these are humans, so we want to treat them like that. You may not know this, but many VAs watch or listen to all the trainings twice because English is their second language. We talk fast sometimes, or we have an accent that could be hard for them to understand. I have a Southern accent, and some may struggle with that. Fast forward a couple of days, and the deadline for completing the training has arrived. I would meet with them on Zoom. I would ask them like what they thought, and I would give them chances to get any and all of their questions answered. So you don't want them to have any unanswered questions. When that is all good, we would get right into the test so I can see how they do. With the cold caller, you can role play, or if it's a data entry job, let them share their screen and then see how it goes. You just want to see how they do. If they falter a little, just know it can still be their nerves. Just be patient with them. I've also hired technical roles in which I would give them 3 or 4 days of training before meeting them. So it really varies. At first, it's your job to be a teacher, not breathing down their neck to produce. There are more bad employers than good. So remember that. Use empathy with them. In the Filipino culture, they want to please people and they work hard in general. So give them grace and know they will get better, provided you hired the right person. If not, then you can always get rid of them and then start over. Since everything is recorded, it's mind-blowing how fast the process goes. The biggest mistake business owners make is they never record or document anything. So they won't get rid of bad hires because it would mean they have to start the whole process over themselves, hiring and training. For me, if someone doesn't work out, I just pay them for their time and run another person through the pre-recorded training. That way, I'm not held hostage. There's a fine line on how much training to provide, though, and when enough is enough. So the 7th step is going to be managing. And the biggest thing that people need to understand is managing them is different from leading them. Leading doesn't play much of a role until you start to have a larger team, but it's still important to think about. So you can look at leading them individually by being there for them, being a teacher. You should know the best candidates don't need to be managed heavily, like in the corporate world. In fact, if a person requires heavy management, they won't make it long with me. I manage by having them submit end-of-day reports. If they can't manage to do that and stay on track, I won't keep them. I tell them ahead of time they have to be self-managing for the most part, and that goes back to hiring A players versus B and C players. Managing 1 or 2 people involves tracking their workflow and then progress through KPIs. It sounds complicated, but it's actually very simple. So with a cold caller, you would track the number of daily dials, number of answers, number of quality conversations, and then how many leads they got that day. You can go into as much depth as you want, but I would keep my eyes on the main thing, which is the number of dials and number of leads per day. So you want to make sure they are putting in the hours and reps. You would see that in the dialer dashboard as well. For me personally, I don't force the screen tracking on people like many do. If you don't trust them, then why did you hire them? And an A player doesn't have to deal with extreme micromanagement because they can get a job anywhere. Think about it like this. You and I are A players and we get stuff done. Would you deal with a bunch of crap? I know I won't. So I'm going where I'm trusted and I can perform uninterrupted. You know you have poor performers when you have a lot of stupid rules. For instance, don't play video games when you're supposed to be cold calling. It is a very stupid rule. If you have to tell someone that, they need to go immediately. Just do it now. So tell them you're sorry, but it's not working out. I like to say it's not you, it's me. This just wasn't working out, and I don't think we're a good fit for you. So the same goes when they aren't putting in the hours. They have to go immediately, especially if they keep missing work for no reason, something like that. Now, leading. So we covered managing. I'll touch on leading just a little bit, but truthfully, no one masters leadership in a month. John Maxwell has written more books on leadership than anyone else. He says it takes 20 years to get good at leadership. So I make sure to lead with true empathy before I let my emotions get involved. I ask, is this how I want someone to handle my kid? Does this person deserve this? Where is their heart at right now? Are they doing this out of malice or did life happen to them? So here's the tough part about being a leader a lot of gurus don't talk about. So when you get multiple people on your team, you will have team members experience death in their close family. And not just one death, but sometimes even multiple. So how are you going to treat them? Personally, I just give them time. So depending on their religion, they don't work for quite some time. Over there, it's called bereavement leave. So you may not plan for a team member to go through, a family death when hiring them, but it can and does happen. So just use extreme empathy if it happens. In the Philippines, you're going to find out that they have a lot of holidays and they take time for family. So they will work hard for you, but you don't come before family over there. So another example is that when someone gets sick there, they have family members stay in the hospital with them. The hospital requires a caregiver to stay with them. It is very common, and they will take a laptop to the hospital during these times. Just know that's how it works. So I provided paid time off to them during these times. I didn't plan on going into this during this training. However, it is the truth, and I just feel like you need to know it. And the real reason I'm doing this is if you do this yourself without me involved, I'm just trying to give you some warnings because there's going to be landmines that you can step on by accident. So I hate when the gurus say it's super easy, just hire VAs and it's like magic. You know good and well, with the good comes the bad. So putting it all together, now that we have talked about all of this, going from planning to leading someone and making it out the other side, it would be easy to think that's a lot, it's too much. How can I do all this? It's understandable, but deep down, you know you don't want to be 60 years old cold calling yourself. So doing everything in your business is not sustainable. No one is meant to do 50 different tasks. In fact, doing everything yourself is like the worst job in the world. Truthfully, no one is good at switching tasks that many times per day. You only do it until you have enough money to grow the business. That way, you do the most important things like deciding final prices for properties and doing deal reviews to see what you want to buy. From there, it's just managing and leading. So your job tasks do change, but that's how it works. You grow as a person. If this all seems like too much work, then being a business owner probably isn't for you. Many business owners who call themselves that really just own a job. It's not a true business. They're held captive by all the things that need to happen instead of expanding. So I do feel the need to clarify here. To all the ones that aren't scared away by this, all of this seems like a lot because it is preparing the business to scale. So for the few who are ready to start the process, just know after these things have been done, your life is so much easier than everyone else's. Here's why. When you need to hire someone else, everything has already been done. You need to hire another cold caller, you just copy and paste. So you need the job post, it's already done. You need the interview questions, it's already typed up, it's done. You need to send an email with additional questions, again, just copy and paste it. It should be a saved file on your computer or in your cloud. So the ones who don't document anything will end up doing every step over and over. The famous saying that comes to mind is insanity is doing the same thing over and over expecting a different result. This is why most solo entrepreneurs are frustrated and feel defeated. They don't grow as people should, they shrink inward. For the ones still here, that means you're probably unafraid. So keep in mind, on the other side of all of this is the life you actually want to live. You have a small team of killers that actually want to show up to do the work. So you feel lucky to have found them and brag about them every chance you get. You might even be the type of person that has trouble focusing and realize this was a life changer because it was hard for you to sit still and do the work to get to the next level. Many entrepreneurs were the ones that had trouble in school because they couldn't sit still and focus. I had to reread everything in school. As an adult, I realized my superpower wasn't sitting still at a desk working for hours. I needed to manage and help others to do that. In return, I do what my team wouldn't want to do. So it works out great for us all. Now, you're probably wondering, how do I fit into all this? Well, I don't sell recruiting services, marketing services, or how to do real estate courses. I help guys who are wanting to learn how to prepare their businesses to scale. So that's a key detail, is preparing the business to scale. You're not scaling nothing until the business is ready to. So they want to do more than they are right now. Those are the guys that I help. Here's the catch for some. I don't help anyone who doesn't already know how to get deals. So if you've never done a deal, I can't help you. I can't help you multiply a zero. You would just spend a lot of money and go nowhere. For those of you who I can help, you need to have some capital to work with. That's why you need to have already done some deals. The person that I can help who's done a few deals is just like, man, I know how to get deals. I just need to create a real business. This solo thing is like not working out. I'm over it. I'm not happy. My wife's not happy. I don't see my kids enough. I'm just over it. And something has to change. I've got to create a real business. So that's how you know I can help you. I will talk you through every step of this process in detail. It takes 12 weeks in total, but it can be done much sooner than this. After it's over, you come out the other side having the know-how to do this, and you should have everything documented, provided that you actually do the work. You should already have someone doing all your repetitive tasks day to day. So let me be clear here. If you think this is magic and you don't have to do anything, it's not. This is what every business you have ever seen requires to be successful. If you do nothing with the information, put in no work, you will get no results. Plain and simple, that should be common sense. As someone who made it to the other side, I can tell you it's not even close to being the same though. I don't have to grind on a computer. The company still works when I'm out of town. If I'm sick, it's not like everything stops. It may be just a couple of emails I need to send or a couple of chats I need to send to the team, and then I am good to go for that day. So that's what I want for you. If you're willing to put in the work, you can finally be a business owner and not just someone who owns a job. So if you want to try and do all this yourself, I wish you the best of luck. The only caution I give is there are a lot of little details that you will need to learn to put everything together. If you don't want any of this, I also wish you the best of luck. So I've met lots of men who just want to be the guy that does everything alone. So they don't want the headache. Think of the guy who mows lawns his whole life because he never wanted to manage anyone other than himself. So I wouldn't want his life because I wouldn't be fulfilled, but that's just me. It has nothing to do with him. Now, if you're the person that wants more, I want you to reach out. Schedule a call in the description. You will talk to me directly, not some salesperson. I'll only accept you if you have the capital to do this and the desire to. If you're looking to get rich quick, this definitely isn't it. And please don't schedule a call. If you're full of excuses, please don't schedule a call. If you're the kind of person who gets frozen from fear and can't imagine doing any of this because it's too risky, do not schedule a call. If you are the kind of person who needs a guarantee, like a money back guarantee, if you're not satisfied, this isn't for you. I'm a firm believer that there are no guarantees in life. I can say if you do nothing with this, you will get nothing. Lastly, if you don't believe in paying for help, don't schedule a call. And remember, I don't teach how to real estate to beginners. So I help guys prepare their business to scale what they're already doing. I only want to work with people who are serious, driven, and have done deals before. If you want to do more and then live a more free life, I look forward to talking to you. And in all sincerity, I really do mean that. I'm doing this because I want to. I already own a business that's doing real estate deals. This is like what I want to do because I love talking about business, and I don't thoroughly love talking about real estate. I would much rather talk about business in general. And that is like my dream life. So if you're wondering why I'm doing that, that's why. And so just know that it's like, just because you have the money does not mean that I'm the person to help you. You may need, and I've already created another video about this. If you're a beginner, you would need other courses. And I'm a firm believer of you might need multiple to end up getting to the end business that you want. But where a lot of those fall short is you don't actually get to talk to the person, to actually get real help from them. And then they don't really talk about scaling and stuff like that. Basically, all of these courses, if you follow it to a T, you now know how to get deals, but you're basically like this lone wolf who has to do everything. And if you get hurt or anything, you're now making no money and it's not a real business. That's where I come into play. So again, schedule a call if you meet the criteria. And if you're interested, I'd love to talk to you, and I'll see you in the next video.